Hello and welcome back to Metropole Grid. My name is Andre.
And I'm Patrick.
And thanks so much for tuning in. We're back with some in-person play. This is Canadian Nationals 2024 East-ish Coast Edition. This is day 2 in Toronto, the basement of the St. Mary Magdalene Anglican Church. This was a phenomenal weekend.
Yeah, it was a great, friendly Netrunner love-in of a weekend.
Oh, fantastic. We had about, I think, 40-ish players from all across Canada coming in. And this is day 2. So we're left with now only in the cut. There's 3 players left in the top 8.
That's right.
Firstly, on the right from Montreal, that's John, our own John V.
Our own John V.
Came in. Now he was nearly undefeated. He just lost his last round in the upper finals. So he was waiting for the lower final brackets. How this works, this is double elimination. So both of these players have lost 1 game already in the top cut. So whoever loses this game is out of the tournament, and then whoever wins this game is going to go face off against Architect, against Sam, who is waiting currently undefeated. That will be the finals, and potentially there'll be a bracket reset for grand finals, because we play until there's a player or 1 player left standing. Basically, you lose 2 games across day 2, you are out. And right now, both these players under last life. On the left, that's Mikhail, an enduring Netrunner Toronto player. He's been playing for as long as I remember. And what's really interesting is he doesn't play a lot, but for big events, he's just hooked up with a deck. Someone locally sews something up.
Someone makes him a deck, says, you'll figure this out, and clearly he does.
He's been figuring it out. He is doing really, really well. Now, unfortunately, well, at least for Mikhail, unfortunately, both of these players have played a fair bit across the weekend. Oh, showing the hand, 2 breakers in it, Lomosoven and Orca.
You don't want your breakers in the opening hand of this kit deck because you want to get a free tutor out of them, not have them in your hand, of course.
This is a Spark of Inspiration big breaker deck. I was saying both of these players have matched up before. They played round 1 in Swiss, and John swept Mikhail.
Yes.
And they also played, I believe, maybe even round 1, if not later on in day 2.
And John won. Matchup again. John, I think, was top of Swiss after day 1, right? Yeah. So John came into the finals pretty strong as well.
Yeah. Strongest standing. If this does technically come to a tie on time, this is still a time round. John will take it. Now, John is playing Azmari. For those unfamiliar, this is a deck list, the archetype we largely saw, I think, pop off in the UK or from UK-based players. We saw this at EMEA Continentals. This is an Azmari that's actually playing the printed 40-card minimum deck because it is a kill combo deck.
Yes, it is so dedicated to the kill combo that's not even going for the extra filler cards, none of that padding.
Now, Azmari, if you're not familiar, it names a card type. A lot of players will have a demarcation on the table of what card type is called. For John, it's really simple. For most Azmaris, it's really simple. We're just going to call event every turn.
You say event because that's probably half the runner deck anyway. You're going to make money consistently.
It's more than half of this kid deck, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Now, John's idea here is we have a bunch of different kill threats. Re-education and FFG agenda lowers all the cards out of the runner's hand, and you can follow that up with a Jupstead core damage. Now, Onicom hitting the other side of the table. This is, of course, a very event-heavy deck. It's totally worth noting that this is open deck lists, so both players know every card, so it's not going to be a surprise when you die to the punitive counterstrike in this deck. Azmari gaining 2 credits off the diesel. That, Onicom, can be really important. Punitive counterstrike. If you have 5 cards in hand and you go for punitive for 3, you're likely going to survive with Onicom.
That's right, because one of those events will be trashed, and Onicom triggers each turn when an event is trashed.
Yes.
So you will draw a card to keep you a little bit safe.
There's a lot of like tech pieces you kind of want for this matchup, and I think that might be one of the only ones we have access to. Another really strong one, because this is a bit of a combo deck on the corp side, is if the runner has access to burner is really important to get those combo pieces out of hand.
Of course, yeah.
Rashida.
Stone Ship Chart Room I don't think is in the runner deck, but that's quite useful against this kind of thing.
Rashida, draw 3, gain 3, mind you, a standard FFG staple. We're at 10 credits already on turn 2, and you notice no ice on central servers. John is basically just going to ice the remote server and try and rush out. The worst damage can happen is maybe a trick shot.
There's the YDL for a big chunk of money as we count up our cards.
Counting the cards. I believe that was only 6 credits. Still pretty good after Rashida. Still quite good. And you'll see how quickly this deck wants to be jamming in the remote server. Now, Mikhail has a lot to do. Not only does he have to figure out how to get into the remote server, which has some pretty rough ice in the near future. Things like Piranha sees play, a 6 strength, functional end the run.
Piranha's a great one in this deck. Yeah. Really does a lot of work.
But then on top of it, if you do access and touch the agendas, you have to survive punitive counterstrike. So
yes, you need to make a lot of money.
Yeah, you need to keep your money up constantly. And things like this, sure gamble, gain 4, Onicom, draw a card on top of the triggers here is exactly what you want.
Exactly.
The things like the Telework's going to sit there. I don't think he's going to hit it for a bit because he just doesn't have time to click for 3.
That is probably true. Clicking for 3 is too slow right now.
But you mentioned it, right? This is a Spark of Inspiration deck.
Yeah.
And while Kit makes the first dice you encounter every turn to Code Gate, if you do not draw a Spark, or heaven forbid have to play your Lobisomu, you just cannot interact with this remote server at all.
That is true, yeah.
There are some copies of Compile that can show up. That is a way to cheat out your breaker, but you do need to be just drawing into your answers, because if you don't have your breakers, you're not running. Buy on R&D,
Of course.
draw 2. Cheaply, we're going to install a Dr. Nuka for free, going to touch a card on top of the deck. I think this is our first access, and off the top.
No. Well, I mean,
Huge.
it is huge. Like, John could answer with a punitive here, but it might be just a value punitive.
Yeah.
Unless he's got 2 that he can afford to make work.
It's hard for a value punitive here. Now, Mikhail stealing the re-education. That is the important agenda.
You got to take money because you need to try to survive at least one of those punitives.
Your goal here is either to get money or to have at least 5 cards in the hand in a lot of events. I think Mikhail might have 5. I'm assuming. Kind of looks like 4.
14 credits is looking pretty good for surviving a punitive.
Now on the remote server, it looks like a Rashida, draw 3, gain 3. If we have a YDL into double
YDL
punitive,
double punitive could work, right?
it depends on cards in hand. Again, Onacom is a huge answer here. There's a chance, and mind you, punitive, one of the few trace cards, so money definitely matters here. Kid is not going to have any link. But John here needs to consider it. Now, sometimes you don't want a value or you want a tempo punitive. Again, Shaper. Cards like Simulchip brings programs back, and that's not what you're expecting here.
That they might be holding on to in hand that they don't want to lose.
But as soon as you throw out one punitive here, the second 3-pointer, if Mikhail collides with,
has a better chance of being survivable, because now there's one punitive less than the deck, or one less than the hand, certainly.
So John has some considerations here. I do think Mikhail might have the full 5 in hand, which makes punitive pretty difficult, but John is definitely doing the math, so he's considering it.
John's doing some scary math. When you're sitting across from a punitive player counting out their cards, like, what do I do?
Is this good? 14 to 20. So I don't think there's any way that Mikhail flatlines here. Is whether John wants to pay what's probably a lot of money, mind you. You pay 3 to do Trace 5. If you want that connect, you have to pay 10 more credits to hit 15. Now that does remove 3 cards from hand, but maybe returns one with Onacom. So if John needs to decide here between pushing out behind 2 ice, of which the runner has no breaker available, or slowing the runner down by doing a bit of a trade on credits on cards, John's really thinking this one through.
Yeah.
Now, the re-education is so big, mind you. A huge problem with this deck for the runner is that it only has 6 agendas in them.
Yeah, the fact that you got 1 access off R&D and it was one of those 6 agendas is fantastic.
Yes.
That is very true.
Now, this list doesn't have Mad Dash. The runner has to actually steal half the agendas in the deck.
Yes, you need to steal 3 agendas.
An absurd number when you have that 18-point minimum threshold on the 40-card minimum decks. So we're looking at, I believe, 3 send a message and 3 re-education. So it's, re-education is really hard.
We're doing a unit Counter-Strike.
Trace 5.
Just Trace 5, huh?
I think John's considering to boost here. You could just do, I'm going to pay 3 so you lose 5. Technically, like an economic warfare, like an Oppo research, like we're just trading resources for resources here. But I think John is trying to figure out the math here. Now, there's also a chance if you have 5 cards in hand, you could send the punitive and see if it misses potentially an event from hand. And then Onacom leaves you with 2.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
There's hardware, there's programs in this deck.
I think you might be credit short. You might need to hide an econ card here, but just trace
by 2 just to make him spend money.
So now,
of course, he's gonna spend the money.
I don't know if it's of course.
You think like he might let it fire because like it's so survivable?
Yeah, it depends on cards in hand. If he has 4 cards in hand, you have to protect them. But if you're saying that the cards in my hand are worth 7 credits,
what does that mean? What does that tell John?
Now, John not going for the second punitive, putting in a remote server. We've seen Rashida into Rashida. A 3rd Rashida would be absurd, but a deck like this on 40 cards, you are a bit more consistent on finding your best cards. Now, upgrades. The upgrades in this deck are super important. Jupes.City Grid will set up a combo. Holloman will set up a combo. Generally, you need a remote server that has the re-education, the Jupestad, and the Holloman, and that is the sort of Exodia combo that John wants to be building.
And of course, a full hand of cards, which is fairly easy to do.
Yeah, there's ways to like clicklessly draw too sometimes with like, you need to be on threat. That's hard.
So on,
We're starting with a Nuka. Mikhail survives. Now the thing in the remote server, he doesn't lose this turn, but as soon as a 3rd card goes in the server, and as long as John has the modicum of credits for the combo, I think it's around 12 credits. Mikhail, if he doesn't have any direct tech cards, like a pinhole threading would be really good, and he has to hit the right card. That can be as fast as this game goes.
Yeah,
I know.
pinhole's a 50-50 if one of those is an agenda.
Yeah. When it's like Holloman Jupestad agenda, then you're like doing a 2 and 3. You just have to trash 1, but you're totally right.
But then like which door is the goat hiding behind?
Always change.
Always switch.
Always switch. Mikhail thinking there.
Yeah, doing some A lot of good thinking.
I think I see a burner in his hand. I think there's a burner.
Burner would be huge.
Yeah. So burner's good against punitive. It's not good against like the Neurospike versions. There are some Neurospike versions of the Azmari 3-point combo. This one's the full Jupstad one. But there's the burner.
Let's burner. Let's see what happens.
So we're going to see 3 cards. You can take Econ, you can take card draw out. If you do see a combo piece, you can bottom it too, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I love this Scotty Minga art, by the way. Just want to check that out.
Speaking of Scotty Minga art, we saw a lot of great stuff. So predicted planogram, Spin Doctor, and an ice, a ping. Looks like we're going to drop the card draw.
Okay.
Planogram goes back. So more card draw in hand.
The ping and Spin Doctor went to the bottom of the deck.
Yes.
Cool.
So Spin Doctor's more card draw there. Now you see there's another punitive in hand. We see that dodged the burner.
Yep.
That is the card you want to burner out because getting into the remote server and having enough remote server money after to survive the punitive is a problem.
And what is NBA known for, but extremely taxing ice. Ice that you have to spend money to get through.
It's like the Piranhas. It's at least if you get Lobby down, you're breaking it relatively well. But here Mikhail needs to draw into the spark sooner than drawing into an actual breaker.
Yes.
If he top decks
3 sparks, 2 breakers. You want to see the sparks first.
Yes. Yeah, if you actually have to play like 8 credits for Lobosomu without a rigging up, like I do not know how you survive against a punitive.
No. All right, it was another Rashida. That's 3 Rashidas in the first, 4 or 5 turns?
In 3 turns, he's drawn 9, gained 9. Okay.
Yeah, good work if you can get it.
Yeah. Full hand backup, okay.
Of course.
We know a punitive's in there. John has the money. He probably has the cards here to do double install planogram just for drawing 3 more.
Love that world's planogram, I believe.
Yeah. This deck draws so much. And at the end of the day, when your goal is like, I just need to score 1 agenda to win the game, you can discard so many cards and not mind. Even like throwing points into archives, it doesn't matter if you have a punitive threat alive and well. Now, when the runner's on 3 points, it's not like you can feed them 6 points for that like hyper lethal punitive. But here, 14 to 20, there's a chance that we're going to be able to contest their double install. This could be the last turn of the game.
It definitely could be. Because you potentially have the Hollow Man, the Jupstad, and the re-education. And at this point, that feels quite likely, right?
Piranha's being thrown out in the bin here. Mikhail understands. He's seen this matchup throughout the day. There's multiple players, mind you. Brandon also in the top cut playing this sort of Azmari list. Very strong list. Now he understands his ways out here is he either has to get in the remote server, have enough money, starting with the build script.
Okay.
Functionally diesel plus a credit for an influence. Okay. With the Onicom. But it means that he doesn't have what he needs here. I'm not sure if the lists are on pinhole threading. Now this is open deck list, so John would know.
Yeah. If you can find a way, if you can pinhole and trash the Jupstad, that keeps you alive.
Yeah. Or the Hollow Man.
Or the Hollow Man, true.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If you spark here, you need to hit the Lobby on a 50-50.
That's right.
Lobosomu, mind you, will get through
will not do it.
any 2 ice. Oh, no. Well,
it gets through the first ice, and then hopefully the second ice is Code Gate or Barrier.
Yeah, all the sentries in this list are like Tsarevna. They don't end the run, so you will get in as much as there will be ramifications. And now there's a big think here. Mikhail understands this could easily be the last turn of the game. So it looks like he doesn't have a pinhole there. You're assuming with a pinhole, you know that at least the bottommost card is an upgrade because it was on top of the Rashida, so you have a safe pinhole target. But Mikhail's doing some math here.
Yeah, we've got 3 more clicks left. I mean, it also win the normal. Like, I mean, maybe this is when you go for centrals if you have multi-access.
It's so hard when the deck has only 5 more agendas.
I know. I know what you're saying.
Because there's 4 agendas. There's 1 in the remote server. You have to.
Yeah, there's 4
you have to find
left.
half the agendas.
4 agendas left and like 30 cards total.
It's a nightmare.
Less than that now.
Sure, gamble, gain 4. We're up to 1922. Mind you, that's the Azmari 2 credits. Event on every single turn is exactly what this kid deck wants to do. So that's a free, I think, 6 to 8 credits so far. Mikhail's still thinking here, 2 clicks left. The only way to not die here is win off centrals or spark or rigging up a breaker and run their remote server and have enough money. I think you need a trick shot or you need an overclock.
Trick shot.
Oh, has it?
There we go.
In hand.
Rigging up the Lobby.
So a bit more expensive, but you're guaranteed to get that instead of paying 3 for the Spark of Inspiration. Down to 14 credits here. Now the ice on the remote server, there's 2 ice there. Lobosomu breaks, again, obviously the code gates will break barriers here. But it comes down now to the credits. We know that John has a single punitive. If he has 2, you need cards in hand for the Onicom. I think Mikhail's only holding 4 cards.
Yeah, Mikhail has gone down in cards to...
So he needs to make a run and draw. It's like only Biobands could possibly do that.
Does he have a Biobands?
2 counters, mind you. That means we can break some barriers. The first one will always be a code gate here. Also, for what it's worth, if John reses ice, he does lose money for punitive. Sometimes you just don't res ice.
That's true.
I'm
But
pretty
some
sure.
ice is going to be more taxing on the runner than it is on you.
No run event, just a run.
Okay,
Outermost.
I see it.
It's a piranha. It's getting res for 5 credits. That bad publicity you do have. You don't have that
It's not
credit
going to
for
be
the
not going
run.
to be for this run, but
So that will matter if there's another turn.
yep,
But piranhas now.
it does require boosting and braking, but
Yeah, you may draw 1 card. You don't want that to fire. Now, the end of the run is conditional based off of difference in cards and hands. We're going to have to break all of that, I'm pretty sure here. 4 to, I think, 5. Second most dice. Do you recognize that one?
it looks like a Klavetnik.
It's a Klavetnik.
Yeah.
That's a barrier.
Assembling insult.
Break for 2. You boost 1, break 1. Now that ability, we're not going to have to fire that. That's some cool Banhar tech in the standard format. So now we're accessing with 7 credits. Now, if you do touch the agenda and steal it, you don't have to trash any of the upgrades, but we're 7 to 14. That's a huge credit differential with only 4 cards in hand. Topmost is re-education.
There's a re-education.
No more clicks left to touch central servers, but Holloman stays
There's the
there.
Holloman. Yeah, I mean, do you spend credits here?
No, I don't think you do.
I don't think you do because you need to keep up for 1 punitive, and probably he doesn't think John has 2 punitives.
Let alone if an agenda goes into that remote server, you know he can run the remote server. You win the game. Second most, the jupes that we expect.
Yep.
4 credits of trash here.
Yeah, he can afford it, but he can't afford it.
4 cards in hand, just going fast enough to catch up with 3 Rashidas to steal 6 points, get into the remote server, but I don't think he has enough money to spare. It comes down to whether John has the second punitive Counter-Strike in hand. Or the third, I mean.
Yeah.
John thinking about a 14 to 7. He has to land 2
punitives that are outside of the
yes.
the trace.
I'm not
scale.
Great at punitive math. You're always up plus 2.
The fact that it's different trace from cost is what messes me up there.
So the first trace, you basically have to do 2 traces at 8.
Yeah.
Which means you have to pay
6 twice.
6 plus 3 twice. So
6 plus 3 twice?
Because you have to pay for the trace and then pay for the boost.
I think we said the same thing.
Yeah. YDL, I think he might have it here.
YDL is actually gonna do it. That gives him just enough money.
Small econ card.
I mean, I think he already had it, but
now he's on 17, so you have to do fewer math. Punitive Counter-Strike the first one through. Trace 5, we have to boost that to 8.
Yep.
There you go. That's going to go through. That's going to be 3 damage. Onicom might draw here, but that will not matter.
Yeah, we know it won't matter.
3 cards.
Because we're assuming he has the second.
Definitely has the second one if he's doing this. So
okay.
There is an event there, but hit the table. Second punitive Counter-Strike. Going to close the game off. 4 turns.
Yeah.
This is just such a fast deck at forcing the issue, you know? Your agenda density is so messed up when there's so many
really
agendas. And forcing the remote server. If he had one more click, there was something in archives.
I thought so, yeah.
And that's what the deck will do. It'll just say, I'm going fast enough where I don't care. If you can run archives, if you can get a click left to maybe draw 1 more card, that's all you really needed there. But it comes down to the clicks. It's so fast that 1 wrong click, you're just too slow.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, I still kind of like a punitive Counter-Strike, you know. I can't say it's nothing personal because corporations are people too.
Yeah. Fantastic game. Unfortunately, Mikhail, what a great run. That means John is going to return. He was just dropped down last round from the top bracket from Architect, and he's going to come back to try and win it back. Now, that means 2 things. Firstly,
what's that?
John, if he wants to win the event, has to win 2 in a row. And secondly,
John is still on his last life.
Yes, he's still in his last life. So Sam has some breathing room. And speaking about some breathing room, we're actually just going to jump into our first finals game.
Okay. So, and congratulations to Mikhail. I think that's solid 3rd place at
quite good.
East Coast Nats. Good for him.
We'll be back in just a second. And we're back. Welcome to the Can Nats finals. On the left, we have Sam. That's Architect. Classically playing Netrunner from the Yukon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's true. We have that connection in common. He was out playing Netrunner while I was living there too. We never crossed paths though.
Wild. Not a big place.
No, not a big place.
Now, Sam is currently undefeated. He is playing Zaya. I love this sort of good stuff. Fundamentals criminal.
Absolutely.
I think it was in a pretty good spot in this meta today. We're going to see how it performs again. Sam hasn't lost a game in the top cut. And on the right back again is John. He hasn't left his seat. This is open deck list, and he understands he needs to win this matchup to have a chance for the bracket reset.
That's right. He's still on his last life. Sam has 2 lives to go.
Yes. And we have seen this matchup already today, just a couple moments ago. Blisteringly quick. That was a 4-turn game, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5 turns for the corporation, but
oh yeah, that was very, very fast.
Delivering multiple angles to attack. Either if the re-education fires with a Jupestad, congratulations, flatline, or if you get caught unawares by punitive, congratulations, flatline.
Whether an agenda was scored or stolen, you might be dead.
Yes. Now, while we don't have Onicom here, the criminal does have access to some relatively good tech. Firstly, diversion of funds is always kind of nice.
Yeah.
You can do a credit swing.
Changes the credit math.
As much as you can recover pretty quickly with things like your digital life and planogram, that does matter.
I'd say class act is another major.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah, exactly.
And surprisingly, I think Sam's list is only on 2 copies of Class Act.
Okay. Well, it's a 40 card deck.
It's a 40 card deck, true. 40 to 40 is
Yeah.
kind of cool.
But if you steal an agenda, you want to immediately play Class
Yes.
Act. Or if you think that they're about to do the combo, you play Class Act, because then
It buys you a turn.
it buys you a turn.
Yes, it's huge because you draw up to extra cards. Now, you technically can still re-education Jupestead someone with Class Act. It takes a lot more work and setup because you have to start with a lot of cards in your hand, but it's technically possible. But the respect that John is going to have to give towards Class Act is going to be fascinating. Now, Zaya also loves open central servers. Of course, Zaya does.
That's true. Zaya's going to be making credits and runs.
So you want to touch cards, get you paid out again whenever you touch cards or once per turn for centrals. And John's going to start there. I think after a mulligan.
Spin Doctor right away.
Spin Doctor start. Again, this deck loves cards in hand, whether it's your digital life or just finding the combo as quickly as possible. Whether we have the ice or the time to ice up, HQ to prevent against a punitive Sudden Commandment. Build your own red level clearance. I actually quite like this new card. I've been enjoying it a lot. I played this in Toronto on the weekend. Draw 2 cards, and now you can play a non-terminal. So like your digital life or predicted planogram, draw 3 more cards.
3 more cards. Cool. This feels like the kind of card that is going to be broken, but we're waiting until someone breaks it, right?
That was your digital life. Okay, so money start.
Big money.
On turn?
Big money start.
On turn 1, we drew 7 cards. 8 with mandatory.
We're up to 11 credits.
Central's wide open.
Central's wide open, so Zaya is going to be trying to get multi-access, but even single access that are going to be worth credits.
Now we have some cards to discard here, mind you. Spin Doctor, if there's agendas, can always choose to protect them. Azmari,
you might not choose to protect them.
Yeah, you might not choose to protect them, actually. That is a thing that you have to keep in mind. This is an open deck list, so there's an understanding that there is going to be punitive Counter-Strike.
John could be tossing agendas into archives, knowing that he can punitive if they're stolen. That's fine.
I think we see at least one agenda thrown out of Klevetnik. Looks like an unsmiling Tsarevna following into the bin. But Central's wide open here. If you can land a diversion of funds, it's relatively good here to basically even out the credit totals. Actually, put the runner ahead. But open Central servers here, you can get your work cut out for you. Your multi-access in this deck is attached to things like twinning. So it requires a bit of setup with generally either Chesva or
your
companions.
Paladins, your Mamie.
Dirty Laundry. We're going to start by running HQ.
Let's see what happens.
We drew a lot, mind you. If you can find a Hollowman, you can find a Jupestad. You want to trash it in hand. Now, it's unfortunate the Spin Doctor might come back, but it will slow the game down. So, Axis, we only have 3 credits to trash. We're going to find a Magnet.
Okay.
1 influence slot there. So, we can gain up to 6 credits if you want to use the Zaya ability. I'm assuming. I don't think this deck is on jailbreaks. It might be, mind you. It is, again, open deck list, very importantly.
That's true. I do have jailbreaks in my Zaya decks.
Yeah, they're nice. They feel pretty good. So now 9 credits to 13. Pretty big differential. Another Dirty Laundry. We're checking archives here. So this is a huge run.
Now, John is not... Okay, of course. There we go. There's 6 points in archives.
Isn't it funny sometimes when you steal 6 points and then you think you might have made a mistake here?
Yeah, that's not how Netrunner is supposed to feel, is it?
Now this is fascinating. 7 to 13 credits.
7 to 13 is an awkward credit number.
We haven't seen
12.
A punitive in hand. Yeah, we did get the Dirty Laundry money.
We did get the Dirty Laundry money.
Now, this is wild.
But just 1 punitive ends it.
1 punitive will end it for 6 damage. Yep. But Sam could have a Class Act. John actually is taking a risk here, not shuffling with the Spin Doctor, basically saying, I don't think you have a Class Act in hand.
Yeah.
We've seen so far 2 cards.
There's 2 in the deck. Sam's drawn like 7 cards total or so.
I think he's only drawn 5. He's just...
Wait, he drew 1 at the start of this turn.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, he's drawn 6, I guess.
Yeah. Now he's doing the math. It's really hard to beat Planogram, YDL. Only a single punitive needs to land, and it's going to be hard to get more money than the corporation. Even a diversion of funds can make it tricky, but 1 click left, no diversion. We're just going RD. If we find an agenda here, we win.
Then we win. Oh my God.
Spin Doctor.
Okay.
No trash, gain 5.
Definitely not going to trash that. Okay, so we now have more credits than John. This is good.
15 credits. Now, mind you have a +2 trace booth. If John just does credit punitive, I think he connects.
That's true, isn't it?
He's just doing the math here.
We're doing some math. Again, you love to see the punitive player doing math. It's always scary when you're on the other side of the table.
Now, Zaya doesn't have Link. So even if we do the trace right now, that's a trace 15. So you just have to click for a single credit.
Yeah.
So unfortunately here, not finding the last 1 of 4 agendas with no Class Act, super importantly, John just clicks for a credit.
Clicks for a credit.
And there you go. Secure himself a seat in the bracket reset grand finals.
Pay 3, boost the trace to 16.
That's a handshake.
And that's a handshake.
1 turn for the runner. There's some risks there for sure. Sam ran archives. I'm not 100% sure if he realized how quickly things could be, but he was talking about that, like he thought John might have to respect Class Act there. Now, is it 2 in the list, right? If a Class Act comes down, I think Sam is so favored.
Yes,
so,
of course. That game is basically done at that point.
Yes, it's really, really, really hard. It's all about the combo, of course, and then centrals matter, but that's okay. We're going to get a bracket reset. We're going to be back for the grand finals. Both these players, I promise you, we're going to have a bit of a longer game. Sorry to sneak that in like that, but John will be again facing off once more against Sam. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. My name is Andre. Thanks for joining, Pat.
And I'm Patrick. Bye, everybody.
We'll be back in a bit. I felt it made more sense to sneak that second game in there. Mind you, when the finals last one runner turn, it's hard to make it its own video without making it obvious that something went very wrong. I think that Azmari deck that John is playing went entirely undefeated, but it's his runner that gave him a bit more of a struggle. So that's what's coming up next. Mind you, we do have a finals and it is much longer than just a one-turn runner game. Shout out to Architect too, who understood how the matchup worked and was just betting, oh, I think John needs to play around the fact that I have a Class Act, and unfortunately that bet was called and he didn't have one. Huge thank you, mind you, to all these names here and more who help support the Metropole Grid so we can put the time to edit, to do all the motion graphics and stuff like this to get gameplay up on the channel. Super thankful to all these names here, and of course our Daily Cast patrons. I'm really excited to be able to put out a Netrunner content like this. So if you're interested in supporting Metropole Grid, you can find a link down below. And with that, we'll be back with the finals again. I promise you it's a much longer game. We had such a fantastic weekend. You can also tell maybe from the gameplay that the room got a bit quieter because people are just standing there watching. The energy in the room was really, really cool, and it's only going to get better. We'll be back with that energy real soon. Thanks for watching. Ciao.